Welcome to Clarity and Purpose. Our world is full of people who are overworked and overwhelmed. They lose focus on what matters, struggle to find a vision for the future, and lose time with those they love. We help businesses and their teams clearly understand their purpose and help them communicate more effectively. I'm your host, James Thorne. I'm here with my co-host, Jake Jordan. Hey, Jake.
What up?
How's it going, man?
Good. So do you have anything in your life that you just detest that you've tried to solve? Like you just try to fix it and, make your own little solution for it?
Yes, a lot of things, but the main...
Okay, pick one.
I'll just pick one. The main one is anything manual labor to me is the worst thing for me. So some people will enjoy doing things like mowing the yard, right?
Okay.
Or that should just be your responsibility because it's what you do to take care of your home. Right. It's the absolute worst thing for me. So
yeah.
I found a way pretty easily to get rid of that by finding teenagers in the neighborhood to pay and me finding other things to do and replace to make that money, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So you hawked off the work on a teenager who wanted some money rather than die inside every Saturday.
Yes. And I've done that even with just like cleaning the garage out, like doing it. I'm like, I'm getting other people in here.
Yeah. So, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So my dad, when we were young, we lived out in the country and they had gravel roads and they would have to walk like a mile out to the mailbox. And I was just a little baby and they had that little tiny little 4-wheel stroller and they would go all the way a mile and back. And my dad was like, all right. I'm like, we're not going to do this anymore. And so he took a triangular piece of canvas and put a tire wheel in a triangle. Bike wheels, bike tires.
Okay.
English is hard. Put the tires, and these made this triangular thing with big old bike tires, and then it was just smooth sailing, right? And so, we do things to fix our own problems a lot of times as business owners too. And our guest today, Cheri Garcia, was an addict and was really just going down a really bad road and decided she was going to fix that and started helping other people fix their own messed up addict stuff. And so, man, it is a fascinating story. So tune in. Here comes the awesome Quirk intro right now. Cheri Garcia is the founder of Cornbread Hustle, staffing agency for second chances. Cheri is passionate about helping people with criminal backgrounds and individuals in recovery find transformation through employment or entrepreneurship. As someone who has reinvented her own life, Cheri wanted to create a company to help others do the same. Before starting Cornbread Hustle, Cheri found her first transformation in recovery through inventing a tanning bed and starting a career in the TV news industry. She later found recovery a second time, but through faith and a sober lifestyle. With a background in marketing and PR, Cheri uses the skills she acquired to help individuals getting out of prison rebrand themselves to become the person they want to be and get noticed by the people they want to meet. Here is Cheri Garcia. Hey Cheri, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing? I'm so glad that I get to start my day off talking to people like you. I just had another podcast earlier and I usually say yes to doing these types of podcasts when it's people that I respect and admire. So I'm happy to start my day off to speak with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Same obviously goes back to you. We try to have people on here that we really admire and, like walking in the same circles, have the same values. So tell everybody a little bit about Cornbread Hustle who don't know you. What is Cornbread Hustle?
So Cornbread Hustle is a staffing agency for second chances. We help people coming out of prison and people in drug or alcohol recovery find meaningful employment. We are a for-profit social enterprise. A lot of people always ask me, why didn't you make something like this a charity? You could get so many grants. And the simple answer to that is, number one, I didn't want to have to build a board that could fire me, to be honest. But number two, because I'm just really good at entrepreneurship. That's what I'm great at. Okay. And you don't quit what you're good at. So I didn't want to learn all the realms of raising money and how to do fundraisers and stuff like that. So I took what seemed like a really huge risk and created a company banking on the success of second chance hires.
That's cool. And you have a reason that second chance is important to you, right?
Yes, I've had my own second, probably more like 22nd chance.
Right.
I used to be a meth addict. I started using meth in high school. I didn't raise my hand and say, I want to be a drug addict one day and get arrested a whole bunch of times. But somebody did offer me the drug and it promised weight loss, productivity, and good grades. And I said, all right, great. That sounds awesome. Sign me up. So I actually tried the drug, and a lot of professionals, I was in high school, so I wasn't a professional, but I've learned that a lot of go-getters actually don't try drugs just to be self-destructive. Either we're trying to escape something, that some kind of unresolved trauma, or we, just like me, it's like, yeah, I want to be more productive. Yeah, heck yeah, let me have some of your Adderall so I can knock out this report, like college Adderall's running rampant. So I started with using meth, and I say I started using meth. I smoked weed, I did all kinds of stuff and was drinking, but I got off of meth, and then I ended up becoming heavily involved with alcohol. So it was easy for me to convince myself that I didn't have a problem because I conquered meth, and I'm an entrepreneur and a businesswoman, so I can play hard and work hard.
Right.
And it wasn't until I just really started, the alcohol just wasn't working for me anymore. I was depressed. I was always hungover. I couldn't remember what I said at meetings. I was going broke. Looking back, I made up a whole bunch of reasons why I was going broke. Hashtag startup life, and it's my circumstances, and I'm just doing what it takes to build this business. I'll live out of my car for these people coming out of prison if I have to. But really, at the end of the day, it was because I was trying to fix everyone else to avoid fixing myself, and I wasn't looking within. I was trying to pour from an empty cup, and that just doesn't work.
That is the truth. Wow. I wonder how many people have gotten to that point here recently with all the stuff going on. Have you seen an uptick in that sort of conversation?
Yes, we are actually at Quest Diagnostics just put out a press release that we are at a 16-year all-time high of failed drug tests in the workplace.
Wow.
So, which I know that because, we hire so many people and we work with HR professionals. And I knew it before the report doesn't even have to come out for me to know it. I mean, 1 in 4 people either have a criminal record or struggle with substance use disorder. Wow. It is what it is. Life isn't easy, and with all the social media, and forget coronavirus, just we live in a world of comparing ourselves to others. And wow, I mean, even before social media and the reality TV shows, if you grew up in a household that was toxic of comparing yourself to others constantly or keeping up with the Joneses or whatever, you're going to grow up with some toxic traits and behaviors. Now our whole society is fostering an environment where we're completely inundated with comparing ourselves to others. And then we have filters. And that doesn't help very much with body image and how we see ourselves. I mean, look, as I become more and more in recovery, and I have found a woman empowerment group that really make me feel great about myself. I know those filters messed with me. Every time I get up to do a selfie and I swipe right and my face looks better, I start feeling like I'm not enough. And especially for people who have substance use disorder, like feeling not enough is a pretty, for me anyway, one of the main reasons why I wanted to escape, because I was tired of just not feeling enough and always wanting to be better. And it was never enough. It was never enough for me. It didn't matter how many fancy pairs of shoes I bought or how expensive my car was or what kind of fancy place I lived in. It still was never enough. And I was constantly comparing myself to others. And that's a dark place to be.
Are you looking for a framework you can just tune into and follow? Are you tired of chasing tactics and strategies that never get you to the growth as other people? Here's the thing. Frameworks are what make dreams work. It's not sexy, it's not shiny, it's just the plain old truth. Are you currently working in a successful framework? Without a clear framework, you're aimlessly wandering, trying to recreate something you didn't follow a recipe for the first time. You'll struggle to find the right steps to get you more leads and more great employees to grow with you. It's as if you're looking through shattered glass. You see glimpses of what you did well, then your vision is lost through all the cracks. All because you didn't take action to start working in proven frameworks. We know what it feels like to chase all different kinds of tactics and strategies to try to get success. It's like a fog has obstructed your vision and you don't know what to do next. That's why we use proven frameworks and step-by-step plans that lift the fog of confusion so you can have a clear path forward to revenue growth and audience reach. We want to help, so here's the plan. Step 1, click the link below and sign up for the course. 2, follow the steps. And finally, grow your company and feel awesome because you finally found the formula that works. Imagine knowing exactly what your next move is. You have a system that runs for you and a team that is full of energy and excited. The people you're helping are excited and sharing their experiences with others. You are the company people want to work with. That can be you. Just click the button below and start the Quirk Growth Plan course.
I grew up in a house where performance was how we earned love. And so when you are constantly trying to one up your last, circumstance or event, it leaves deep wounds that you have to deal with later in life. You don't even realize are wounds. You thought they were strengths when they were younger.
Yes, that's what I was about to say is you start to justify it and convince yourself that that's what makes you a strong entrepreneur because you're competitive and because you're a go-getter and because you had no choice but to be resourceful. And that's why I started Cornbread Hustle 4 years ago, and I started it with that mentality. And all I did was power through. And I was never vulnerable because I had walls of fear, because I never looked within and I never worked through any of those issues. And instead, I just powered through with Adderall in the morning, alcohol at night, and I'm a good person. I help people. And in fact, I had so much pride and ego. Like I thought I was like some girl running around fixing all these people. Right. And I was one of the last to know. I was one of the last to know that I was completely miserable and empty inside. And that's why I always say that I'm like such a grateful drug addict or alcoholic. I used to wonder why people would say, hey, my name is so-and-so and I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'd be like, grateful? Why are you grateful that you're not allowed to drink? Like it took me a long time to really decide that this is a choice. And if I want to drink, I will. I'm not being forced not to drink. And now that I've started seeing the promises of sobriety and my faith come through, I'm like, you know what? I am really grateful because had I not hit my rock bottom and needed to seek some comfort and some tools to stay sober, I would have never learned all these things about myself and become a better human being. So that's why I try to do mental health awareness workshops and create community events at Cornbread Hustle for HR professionals, not just people in recovery, not just people coming out of prison, not just people with criminal records, just everyday people who are six-figure making executives, or even you don't even have to make a lot of money. You're just every day in the workplace. We try to really help create community and an awareness around mental health because everybody has the potential to be a kingdom builder and change lives. Every single person does. If you talk to another human being at least once a day, you have the potential to change lives.
That's right. That's right. And I've got a friend, actually, who was interviewed as well, who has a workplace ministry business. And he says that faith is just service. And we always wonder about how we can live out our faith and work. And it's really just serving others to start first and foremost. So how that pivot that you made, that clarity that kind of came to you as being a grateful alcoholic, how has that helped you keep on task for growing Cornbread Hustle?
Well, I will say that every single one of our internal employees that come to work at the office every day, because we have almost 100 full-time employees, but a lot of those employees are out working at other job sites, right? because an employer has paid us to send them to work there, even though they're still technically our employee. But we have we're growing. We're getting up to, by the end of the year, we'll probably be up to 10 people in the office, and every single person so far is in recovery, active recovery. So yes, I do it for myself. What I had to start doing is create the environment that I needed for myself. And what that's done is create an environment that everyone else needs so I put myself first, and it just so happens that it helped them out. Now, before, when I started the company 4 years ago and I was still an alcoholic, I obviously wasn't putting myself first because I wasn't taking care of myself. And so I wasn't creating an environment that helped the people that I was trying to help.
Right.
It's what a toxic environment that I, was working in a place that had alcohol all the time, yet I'm helping people in recovery. Like, that's that's a huge example of how my own pride and ego got in the way of my mission. Right. And so really at the end of the day, like, my pivot to becoming a grateful alcoholic is just more so put Cheri first and the rest will follow. And that was really hard for me because, and if you grew up in a household like you're describing, you probably have a hard time doing things for yourself, and you do things for others way quicker than you'll do it for yourself. And that's what's really difficult for a lot of us go-getters and overachievers. We think that we're doing stuff for others all the time, and by putting ourselves last, we're being some servant leader, when at the end of the day, we're not serving anybody at all. So we've just decided as a company to put God and recovery first, and the rest follows. Every time I look at the bank account, there's more money. And I'm like, wow, I feel like I used to look at the bank account twice a week and I was crying because it was negative again. And that was in recovery. Like, I had to really put one foot in front of the other and really go through the pain of rebuilding, and constantly, like, man, it was just so upsetting to be 6 months sober, because I never went sober my whole life, and to feel like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, but the bank account keeps going negative. Because success doesn't happen overnight, and it's not linear. It wasn't until one day, I just feel like whenever you're trying to change is hard. It's really hard, and people don't do it because of the work that it takes and facing. It's like stepping on the scale to see how much you weigh so you can come up with a plan. You don't even want to see the number. You're just like, I'd rather just think I'm eating healthy, right? And it took a lot to have to face all that stuff and to see all the things that I messed up, and because of my own not putting myself first, and because of just putting things under the rug and drinking, putting things under the rug. It does feel good because you can escape, and I want to escape almost every single day. I'll tell you that openly and honest. It's just as hard to be sober in successful times, if not harder, than it is when you're struggling. I got real used to struggling and being sober. I'm like, whatever, I don't have anything, but I'm sober. Nobody can take that away from me. Now I'm like, holy cow, I have all these responsibilities and I have to be accountable, and I have 100 employees on payroll. I really want to drink now. I really do. I want to escape. But the thing is even though that escape will feel good, and I know that it will provide me instant relief, the next morning the problem's going to be worse, and I have a hangover on top of it. So it's just all about playing that tape fast forward and being like, okay, what will this really do? So the pivot was necessary. It was just, if I didn't, then I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I really don't even know if I would be on this earth, because I was heading to such a destructive path.
Yeah. So what would you say then to someone who's not a recovering alcoholic or whatnot, who might be watching and say, like, what's something that you could package up for them to go, you don't have to be an alcoholic to learn this lesson and help it grow you?
Yeah. So basically everything that I've talked about, take the fact that I'm an alcoholic out of it, and it's still very important. Putting yourself first, understanding your fears, your trust issues. When did your trust issues begin? How does that affect your workplace culture? Do you really have an open door policy where you say people can come express your needs, or are you just saying that because it's your ego and pride saying that people can, but because you won't get vulnerable and you won't work on yourselves, your employees will never be vulnerable and express their needs. So then you're running around telling everyone we have an open door policy and our employees love it here, when the employees are too afraid to voice how they feel in the workplace because they see their boss powering through things and saying, we grew up, now that you told me, we grew up in a household where it's like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about, or you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or you need to do this. And a lot of us leaders are like that. We're go-getting competitive people. And when you have that mentality of go, 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 power through, grind, 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 we convince ourselves that it's the right thing to do, and that's what's making us successful. But we don't realize that every single day that we keep displaying that behavior, we're putting up walls to keep vulnerability out of the company because we are unwilling to be vulnerable. Why? Because somewhere along the way, somebody's broken our trust, and somewhere along the way, we put up those walls for fear. Fear of what? That's part of what we teach in the workshops, like figuring out where did that fear come from and what are you really afraid of? And once you start digging down deep and figuring out those things, you become such more of an effective leader because now you worked on you instead of looking at everyone else and telling them what they should do and believing that your workplace culture is just wonderful and effective because you have an open door policy that nobody wants to step through.
Yep. And you kind of alluded to it is you can't lead where you haven't been. If you're not living it out in front of them, then are you actually being a leader or are you just being a boss? And so I love that advice to really look inward. And it's always been interesting too, for me to understand that self-care is not selfish and that it is something that you have to come equipped. Like any job, you come with tools or resources so that you can do a good job. And if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not a good worker.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you mentioned that. Cool. Well, Cheri, you got anything coming up that people can come plug into?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I post a lot of videos around different topics when it comes to addiction and self-love and advocating for yourself. But also cornbreadhustle.com. I see everything that comes through there. And if you're in the Dallas area and you want to do more when it comes to being aware of your own mental health, we meet every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. and it's a pretty solid group. So we call ourselves the Breakfast Club. So just reach out to me if you want to. I don't put the address out for everybody to know because we want to make it invite only. But if you're interested in coming, just reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, we'll put all Cheri's stuff down below in the section, all the links and everything. So if you want to reach out or check out that Tuesday group, it will be available. Cheri, thank you so much for being on the show. And we just really appreciate having you today.
Thank you.
Wow, James, that was powerful. There's a lot there. It's anytime you hear somebody's story about addiction and recovery and things like that, it grabs you. Yeah. So I especially like the part where she talked about how she was growing the business and she was out there trying to be a hero, helping people, and she was still drinking, like morning drinking and stuff. And so just felt like a hypocrite. And I know I felt that way in my life, not for those things, but I've been there.
Oh yeah, totally. And in business, if you relate that to the things that we take on ourselves in business, excuse me, when you take on in business, basically, we're doing things we shouldn't be doing, right? Like there's so many things I catch myself, I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I am. Right. And hey, to swing this back around with how we help people, like people take on their own marketing all the time because they feel like they can handle it. And rightfully so, you know how to talk about your business, but it's hard for you to manage that part because it's not what you're really meant to do and spend all your time on. So, yeah. So, hey, if that's something that you need some help on, or you're sitting here trying to design your website or figure out how to create wording for your emails, and you need to hit us up because not only are we excited about how people clarify their message and their purpose, we have a plan in place, and we do growth plans. So we'll tell you about it. Hit us up.
Right.
But for everyone else, hey, if you're joining us on YouTube, make sure you hit the bells, the little ding dings, get notified, and we appreciate you guys. But we believe when every business leader aligns their team with their message, they become unstoppable.